Greetings, Delta College. Thank you so much for joining us in this short presentation in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On behalf of the Delta College Ethnic Studies Department and Black Faculty Task Force, we are presenting interesting facts about our great and esteemed leader on January 17th, 2022, and we are so honored to have you celebrate with us. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Did you know that the version of the song Happy Birthday, as performed by Stevie Wonder, was dedicated to Dr. King? Stevie Wonder campaigned tirelessly on behalf of establishing the Martin Luther King holiday when Congress stopped short of passing it into national law. This song was the catalyst that directly led to the enshrinement of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, observed since January 1986 by most states. This song can be found on the 1980 album Hotter Than July, and you can check it out for the full version. On that note, it wasn't until the year 2000 that all 50 states officially observed Martin Luther King Day. The last states to join up were Arizona in 92, New Hampshire in 99, and Utah in 2000. The holiday itself was officially signed into federal law by Reagan in 1983, with the first holiday on January 20th, 1986. There are only 3 people in U.S. history who have had a national holiday in their name: Dr. King, George Washington, and Columbus, whose day is now rightfully recognized as Indigenous Peoples' Day. Is this true or false? A little trivia for you. Dr. King's first name was actually Michael. In 1934, his father attended a conference in Germany where he was inspired by the teachings of religious thinker Martin Luther. And so he changed both his name and his son's name to Martin Luther King. True or false? It's true. But Dr. King was 5 years old when this happened, so he lovingly remained as Mike to his closest friends and family. Let's talk about the brilliance of Dr. King, who skipped 2 grades in high school, 9th and 11th, and some accounts say 12th instead of 11th. But he entered Morehouse College at the young age of 15 in 1944, and by the time he was 19, he received a bachelor's degree in sociology. And his brilliance ensued. On top of receiving 2 bachelor's degrees, one in sociology from the HBCU, or Historically Black College, Morehouse in Atlanta, Georgia, and the other in divinity from the Crusade Theological Seminary, Dr. King went on to earn a PhD from Boston University in 1955. And as if that wasn't enough, he earned 20-plus honorary doctorates from Howard University, Bard College, Yale, Wesleyan, and a number of other higher education institutions in America and throughout the world. Martin Luther King was quite the writer. He wrote 6 books throughout his life, including titles such as Stride Toward Freedom, Where Do We Go From Here, and Why We Can't Wait, Chaos or Community, which document his leadership and excellence in the civil rights movement. He also published a book of sermons, addresses, and an autobiography. What a busy man. Here's a creepy true or false question. Did Dr. King and his wife, the incredible leader Coretta Scott, spend their honeymoon in a mortuary? Dr. King married Coretta in 1953 in Alabama, and after his father officiated a ceremony, they were looking for a place to spend their honeymoon night. But due to segregation, racism, and fear, no hotels in their area welcomed Black couples as guests. So they had to find somewhere else and ended up at a family friend's house who was an undertaker and worked out of his house. So the answer is true. This beautiful couple spent their first night in a mortuary. For all the Trekkies out there, can you believe Martin Luther King Jr. was a sci-fi fan and a huge Trekkie himself? He was so enamored with Star Trek and the fact that Nichelle Nichols, an African-American actress, played Lieutenant Uhura on the show. She was one of the first African-American characters who did not conform to black stereotypes. And when she considered leaving after the first season, it was Dr. King who convinced her to stay, paving the way for future black actresses. There are over 700 streets in the United States named after Dr. King, with one such street in almost every major city, including Stockton, California. And this doesn't even account for the number of buildings, schools, centers, and statues that are honoring him. Many of you may have seen this statue from Stockton itself. Speaking of honor, Dr. King is the youngest male to win a Nobel Peace Prize in 1964 at 35. Today, the youngest ever to win the Peace Prize is the one and only Malala, who was only 17 when she won it in 2014. But Dr. King donated all of his earnings, $54,123, which is about $400,000 today, to the civil rights movement. During his acceptance speech, he stated, "I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. This is why right, temporarily defeated, is stronger than evil triumphant." Words of the profound Dr. King. One piece of shocking and unfortunate history in Dr. King's life was the fact that he was nearly assassinated a whole decade before he was shot in his untimely murder. In 1958, he was approached by an unstable woman who pulled out a letter opener and stabbed him in the chest. It took 3 hours for doctors to remove the blade, and the doctors said it was so serious that if he would have sneezed, he could have lost his life. And in the picture on top, you can actually see him sitting with the letter opener in his chest. Dr. King is a true survivor. Martin Luther King Jr. was even a Grammy winner for his 1971 Best Spoken Word album, Why I Oppose the War in Vietnam. He was also awarded a Congressional Gold Medal and a Medal of Freedom. And you can see the beautiful image of his gold medal with his honorable wife by his side. Dr. King spoke at over 2,500 events and gave hundreds of addresses per year. And during his short 12-year career in the public eye, he spoke an average of 450 times per year. Many of us are not aware of the bravery and impact of children within the civil rights movement. Dr. King supported the Birmingham Children's Crusade that took place in Alabama in 1963. Approximately 4,000 children and teens left school to march and protest on behalf of their parents and adults who couldn't afford to lose their jobs. But the police showed no mercy. The children brutally faced water hoses, police dogs, beatings, and more than 2,000 kids were arrested and held in jail for weeks during the protest. However, their bravery, their courage led to the desegregation and the final passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Check it out. Dr. King's childhood home is a museum that you can visit for free when you're in Atlanta. His home and other Martin Luther King museums stand on Auburn Street in Atlanta, Georgia. In this home, every room is preserved and restored to its original detail. And you can even see the room where he was born and where he played. It's like taking a walk back in time. If you're in Atlanta, you have to visit the museums. One of Dr. King's countless quotes states, "The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education." We thank Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for his contributions to our country, to humanity, and to the world. We'd like to thank you for joining us for this very quick presentation on the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Have a wonderful day and enjoy Stevie Wonder as he takes us home.